All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our side by side from March. My name is Diana Hawes, and I am one of the admins for our Facebook group. And this is my very first time hosting the side by side. And so bear with me. I'm a little nervous. Hopefully, my voice isn't too shaky, but I'm so excited to be here with Krystal Paulsen. I met Krystal Paulsen at the conference last year, and it's just a ray of sunshine. She was just so happy. And I was, as I was praying about who to interview for this month, since it's my responsibility, and her name came to my mind. And I thought it would be so fun to get to know her, her bright journey, and talk a little bit about the Tabernacle Choir as well. So before we get started, I'm going to share a little video. So let's hope this goes well. Oh, hold on here. All right, here we are back. And I just wanted to say thank you to Vanessa Knuckles. She's the one that put that video together. But I want to go ahead and welcome Krystal. Welcome to our side by side.
You. Thanks so much for having me. I'm just
Yeah.
actually excited.
Yeah. Okay, so our first question is let's tell us about yourself and your family, maybe where you live and a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so I actually live in West Valley City, Utah, and I am married with four children. They're all adults now, and I have three grandkids. I have one bonus son-in-law, and my husband and I have been married almost 36 years. It will be 36 years on Tuesday.
Wow.
And yeah, that's a little bit about me and my family.
Well, happy anniversary on Tuesday. That's amazing. 36 years is awesome.
Thank you.
All right. So, how did you find out about Bright Line Eating?
So I don't know if any of you know Carrie Twitchell. She's also a Bright Line Eater. I ran into her, I want to say it was like 2019-ish. She's a Let's Play music teacher, which is one of my businesses that I run and she was at a training that we shared together. And I noticed she had significant weight loss. And I was like, what are you doing? And she was purposely avoiding all of the crackers and the other things that were there at the buffet. And she was getting the vegetables and the fruits and things. And she just said, oh, I love it. It's Bright Line Eating. You need to get the book. And, she mentioned that you don't eat sugar or flour. And so anyway, I just made that mental note in my mind and then just occasionally would think about it. But I think it was about a year and a half later before I actually texted her and said, what was that book again? And then went ahead and ordered it. And I was thinking of just checking it out from the library. And then I thought, you know what, as slow a reader as I am, I'm just going to get it, buy it and have it. And so I did. And then I just started to read it slowly. And the more that I read, I realized, this is definitely me. Like this is me. And I knew that as soon as I finished it, I would have to start. So anyway, that was kind of the beginnings of my journey.
And when did you start? When did you start your program?
So I was actually on a trip to Hawaii in early 2021. And I was like, this is when I'll finish the book because I'll have 4 hours there, 4 hours back, plenty of time to read, right? So I finished it, and then I knew that as soon as I got home from that trip, I would have my day one. And it was probably March. It was actually more like March, early March of 2021 when I went and got my scale, said, this is when I'm starting, and
Mhm.
yeah, early March of 2021.
All right. Are you comfortable sharing like maybe what your highest weight was or how much you've lost or
Yeah, I am. I was 184 when I began, and I'm currently about 150. So
awesome?
that was I hit my goal weight in August of last year. So I've kind of had a little bit of a roller coaster ride. I when I first started, I was 100% right, all the way till June of that year. And we had the first Brightest Eaters conference, and I went and attended that. And I was and I was in such a high place of I've lost 30 pounds and I found the plan for life and all this stuff. But I had my first break like the month later. So it's just it began. I think that you start breaking lines and then it's just, this roller coaster. And that's sort of been my journey until now. But I did finally hit my goal weight last summer and walked as maintenance in conference last year. So
That's right. I remember that. That's so exciting. I think most of our journeys are up and down like that, you know? And so that's awesome. How is your family? Are they supportive of your new bright lighting lifestyle? Have they joined you?
it's there. I've been one of those that have tried so many different diet plans throughout my life. I feel like the very first one I did was 2003, and I think I lost like 45 pounds. And so they're used to me being on the new thing, let's try this now, let's try that now. They're they're used to that journey for me, but I think that they see it that like I'm really settled into this one, that I've really decided no matter what, this is where I'm sticking. And and they have been a lot more supportive. I kind of hit, I can't remember exactly when it was. It was in 2024 when maybe it was right after conference. That's what it was. I'd walked as maintenance, but I still was not right at my goal yet. And I was feeling like I had still not sat down and seriously told my family what I needed. And so, and it wasn't my whole family, it was my husband, because my kids are all pretty much doing their thing. And he and I do a lot more together, just the two of us. So I just kind of sat him down and said, this is what I'm going to do for life. Like, and I really need your support. And as much as it's kind of funny to mock my food plate, say, are you going to eat all that? The, or to say like, really, you, you are weighing and measuring everything. And then every so often you cheat or whatever, like they'll kind of watch me and mock that at times. And I just kind of said, it really doesn't help me. I want you to know that I need your support in this, and that this is going to be what I stick with for life. And so there was kind of a shift in that moment, and I really felt like, okay, yeah, sure, I get it. And now I see my husband, he's more trying to follow it, even though he's not weighing and measuring.
Mhm.
His journey right now is no sugar and no flour. So we'll see how that is with it.
But
But
that's awesome because then you guys can kind of do it together, you know,
right,
and have the support of each other.
right.
Absolutely. I forgot to ask, do you have any kids at home? What are the age ranges of your
So
kids?
I have my oldest is 35 and then the youngest is 25. And
Okay, so
so and two live at home. Two of them live, my youngest lives at home, and then my second oldest is at home right now as he's trying to transition into his next job and doing school stuff.
oh,
So
okay. That's awesome. So what would you say is I don't, let's see, like the greatest thing, or what is one of the most impactful things that you've learned in your Brightline eating journey?
I really feel like the reason I'm kind of stuck on this one for life is because I've come to the realization that this is about peace for me. Like it really is more of a mental game for me that I just the weight is losing weight is great, feeling better is great, but the peace in my head is really what I've noticed with this that I have never had with any other program. Like when I've been consistently bright, it's just that, yeah, that quiet food chatter that just doesn't happen anymore. And it's almost like you don't even care what's the next meal and where am I going and it's just that's what I have loved more than anything is the peace. And so I think that is, if I were to pick one thing that I've learned is just, and I also, along with that, last summer, as I was kind of in maintenance, and I have to give a shout out to Beth because she was my coach, as I kind of, for the first time, had a true coach helping me through maintenance. And she was great. We checked in weekly and it was awesome. But it was the thing that I loved was the mantra that Wendy shared in her workshop at conference where she said, if the cost is my peace, then it's not worth it. And I've hung on to that. And I really, even there have been times when I've mentally asked myself that when I'm going to do something that I know is not on my plan, I'll ask myself that, oh, is this going to give me the peace? Is this going to keep me in peace? And and then I say, oh, let's, walk away,
Oh,
turn around, go the other direction, whatever it takes. So
that's awesome. It's amazing how impactful mantras can be,
I'm I'm listening
when
to
you're
the
just
call,
really
but
struggling. Oh, someone
remind me
can,
to go over to GNC tomorrow.
we just need someone to mute. Who is it? I'm not sure who it is that needs
Tomorrow.
to mute. Jill, would you mind muting
Oh,
your
oh, sorry.
sound? Thank you so much. Okay. Um, what would be oh shoot, I lost the question I was gonna ask you. Um, what has been the hardest thing about your journey, your bright line eating journey? What has been the hardest thing that you've had to do?
I think it's just the FOMO that I really have realized how much FOMO I have, that watching other people enjoy something and not being able to partake, like that has been the hardest thing. Is feeling like I'm a little bit left out in many places. And I know that will take some working through. But when I've been in that place of true peace, it really doesn't matter. I honestly don't care, And so that's where I'm
Right?
currently trying to get right back to that stage. And I would say that traveling is the hardest thing because travel brings up FOMO, right? It's like everyone else. You're with so many different people when you're traveling generally. And so that's been my biggest challenge, I'd say.
Yeah. Traveling, I think traveling's hard for a lot of people, but where you're traveling with a choir, that brings up some other challenges too. Um, what's your new favorite, like what's a vegetable that you didn't eat before bright line eating that you love now? Or maybe even a protein or something.
Let's see. God, there's a lot of vegetables actually. I've never hated vegetables, but I do a lot more of the roasted. Like the roasted broccoli and cauliflower and like that's probably my favorite thing to do is just, and when we were on our last trip, that was one of the things that we had almost every meal was roasted vegetables. So I love that. I was like, oh, tomatoes and broccoli and cauliflower. I was trying to think if there's any that I have tried that I didn't enjoy before. And I can't think of any. I think I just have always been okay with them. But I'll tell you, when I got into a space of like true peace, where it was like bright, I had probably 2 or 3 bright weeks under me. All of a sudden, vegetables tasted even better. And I've heard other people say that very thing. They just taste. There was they've always been good to me, but they just tasted even better. And it was like I didn't mind having to get 20 ounces of veggies in the day, right? So
I for me, I almost get to a spot where I kind of crave them. Like I'm craving carrots and broccoli. And so that I love that. It's such a nice surprise when things start tasting differently because like you hear from other people, but then when you experience it yourself. So, with Bright Line Eating, I know you kind of mentioned Let's Play Music, but how has your Bright Line Eating journey or in your new lifestyle helped you in like your work, like Let's Play Music and other stuff, like your background there?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's helped me just be able to be, I can move and I can do everything that I need to without problems. I feel like that also helps the movement that I started adding in, after I began the program. That I didn't do a lot of exercise, and then I started in a couple of months after I began. And I've always been a walker. I've always enjoyed going for walks. But all of a sudden, with that weight coming off, the extra weight, it seemed like I could move and I can get, when I'm teaching my Let's Play Music classes, I'm up and down really easily. And I don't have to, I worry about the knee problems or the back pains that I used to have and stuff. And also feeling like I'm finally in that right sized body. I can finally feel
Mhm.
like I'm there, and there's just a freedom of movement, I feel like. So it's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. For those of you that don't know, Let's Play Music is a great program for kids. My son's actually in his second year and I've absolutely loved it. But in the classes, because there's parent classes, we get up and down and on the floor, we sit on the floor and do activities and then we go sit at a piano and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, I've even had that same benefit. So that's why I wanted to ask you how it's helped you in your classes because they're active classes. They're just not sitting there. And so that's awesome. Have you always I know obviously you sing because you're in the choir. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But have you always just loved singing? Like, what do you play any instruments or anything like that?
Yeah, so I played piano my whole life. Like I think I started lessons at 5, and I've played my whole life. And I taught piano lessons before I started Let's Play Music. So I taught for almost 20 years, even before Let's Play Music. And when I found that program, it was like, oh, this is including singing. It teaches children to sing and to play, and really it just gives them the full foundational background for music that they need. So that's kind of like I feel like it's singing, it's playing, it's every instrument, all the theory behind every instrument is learned, and yeah, it's really it it's just kind of enhanced what I already knew. Um,
Hmm.
but in order to get into the choir, you have to have a real theory. You have to answer, you take a test that's really extensive in theory. And I didn't feel like I had that much experience until I did Let's Play Music. When I started teaching that, I learned so much more about the theory side of things,
Hmm.
and that like prepared me really well for the time at the choir.
All right. So, what made you decide to try out for the choir to start that process?
Yeah, so I've always dreamed of doing it. Like even as a child, I remember thinking, I want to sing in that choir, you know. And it was one of those things that I would have said if I at the time it would have been a dream. But I didn't even live anywhere near Salt Lake, and I just didn't think it was a reasonable dream, really, until I moved in. After I got married, we moved up this way, and I realized, oh, this is something that maybe I could do. And I would just entertain the thought every so often. But I was always in a leadership position where I thought, like, I'm raising kids, and then as they were growing, then I had a leadership calling in both my ward and my stake, and it just never felt like good timing. And then in 2019, I decided to just go for it. And then I didn't even pass the first phase that
Oh,
year.
wow.
So yeah, it was a little bit of a, whoa, I guess I must not have what it takes or whatever. But I did end up getting a vocal teacher at that point just to kind of help me see what it was I was missing. And then I auditioned a couple of years later, but because of COVID, I had to put that off. Um, one year they had me like we had waited a whole year before we could do the second phase. And then that year I made it to the third phase and didn't pass. So,
Oh, my goodness.
so then it was at that point I had to ask myself, do I really want to do this? Is this really something that I want this badly that I would go through all of that again? And then you only get 3 tries. So it would have been like,
Oh,
you know, do I want to put myself through all of that? And is it really that important? And I really kind of got to a place where maybe not. Maybe there's other dreams that I can go after. And then I got another revelation, a personal revelation that was like, no, you need to give the full effort. You need to do, you'll always wonder if you wouldn't have what would have happened. And so then the following, well, I got a different vocal teacher and we waited a year and worked really hard and she had me singing solos. I've never been a soloist. And she gave me some challenge that I hadn't had before. And so then in 2023, I auditioned again and made it all the way through. So anyway,
That's awesome. Wow. What are the three different phases that you go through? Just curious,
yeah,
like for the auditions.
the first phase is simply sending in a recording. It's and they
Okay.
and they lay it out for you. They give you what you need to record, what you need to sing. You do choose a hymn, but it's like one of four different hymns. And then you send that recording in. And in the beginning, I did it on my phone. Those first two times did it on my phone. And but the third time with this vocal teacher, she says, "Why don't we go to a recording? Let's go." She had a friend who does recordings, and so we actually went into his studio. But they always stress that you don't need to do that. It's as simple on your phone is fine. But yeah, and then the second phase is the written test, and this is a theory test. Mostly it's hearing, like it's ear training. I felt like it's a 2 hour test, but I would say an hour and a half of that is just listening. It's like an ear training. You have to hear something and then you have to write down what you heard, kind of like check off what you heard. And there's all different aspects of it. So that was the second phase. And then the third phase, if you pass that second phase, then you're into an audition in person and you sing for the two directors. And actually there's like three directors. Now there's kind of a choir school director as well. So the fourth phase is January through April. You're committed to 100% attendance of choir school. And this one is pretty much, once you've hit there, you're pretty much in, but it's kind of more of a test to see if you can handle the rigors and the commitment level of being there 100%. And that's when you get some more deep training to just be ready for what the choir has to do. And so I feel like the fourth phase you're already in, but it's still not 100% final,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And how much time do you spend each week with the choir? Like obviously you're there on Sundays for the music and the spoken word, but how much do you have other days during the week that you're there?
Yeah, so every Thursday night is rehearsal and every Sunday is a broadcast. So that's just a given every Thursday, every Sunday. But if you're in choir school, then you're going to go Tuesday nights for what we call chorale. It's like a chorale choir. It always happens January through April, and it's for anyone that's already in. And like the first years have to do it, the second years have to do it, and then anyone else can choose in. And you're there every Tuesday night rehearsing, and then you do a concert in April. So right now, that's probably the most time that I've had to give was I'm there Tuesday night, Thursday night, and then Sunday morning. But it's only till April, and then once you're in your third year, you don't have to do it again unless you want to. Yeah, and then there's extra things like when general conference is coming, we'll have extra rehearsals. Sometimes we rehearse on a Wednesday night, Christmas concert week is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is pretty much the whole week.
Yeah.
And so, but for the most part, it's Thursday and Sunday is the commitment.
And what time do you get there, like on Sunday mornings? Because the broadcast is at 9:30.
Right. We have to be there in our seats dressed at 7:25 in the morning.
Wow.
So, I try to be there at 7 so I have time to, actually 6:45 so I can get parked and then walk in and change and then be in my seat by 7:25.
So they're long mornings. So do you guys start, do you learn the new songs on Thursday night and then sing them for that following Sunday?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
So
wow.
that is the bulk of our rehearsal on Thursday is just making sure we're ready for the broadcast. And then, but we do take time always to run through upcoming music, especially if it's new music. And that will happen on Thursday. And then Sunday, right now we're back into extra rehearsals. So after the broadcast is over, we'll have an extra rehearsal. And that is just like 10, usually about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. We stay and rehearse. So yeah, kind of depends on what's coming up for us if we're going to do an extra rehearsal or not.
You're probably having a lot of extra rehearsals right now with conference coming up in a couple weeks.
Yes, yes.
I can only imagine. Wow. What's your favorite hymn that you've sung in the choir? I mean, I know it's hard to pick a favorite because I could pick numerous, but what's one that probably has been the most
I would
special
say
to you?
it is well with my soul
Mm.
is probably my all. And I just remember being in 2020, that kind of scared feeling we all had of it's just this unknown of what's going on in the world and this shutdown that happened. And then looking so forward to General Conference. And one of the songs they sang was that one. And it was one of the rebroadcasts. Remember how they didn't even have the
Right.
choir there but it was just like, it was almost like that was the first time I'd heard it. And I know I'd heard it before, but it just was like, it sort of just took me over. And I just felt every lyric in that song. And then when we sing in the choir, I can't do it without tears. So
Absolutely.
really powerful message for me.
Mhm. If you've ever there when I don't remember when it was, but Lloyd Newell shared kind of the background of who wrote the story and like his story, what had happened with his family. I can't think of his name, but he basically had lost his all of his children at
Yeah.
sea, and he wrote this words. And when I heard that, like that one, that would be one of the ones that I would choose too because I absolutely love it, and I love that it's in the hymn book now. We can sing it just as a regular hymn in church. It so makes me so happy. So obviously you are at rehearsal and on Sundays, long days, especially during conference. Do they feed you or do you have to pack your own food?
Yeah, so
How does that work?
they never feed us unless it's like a full day, like on Christmas concert Sunday or the Saturday of Christmas concerts. We were there all day. I think we had to be there at 9 in the morning. And then we did mostly a lot of sound checks, some recording, and then we had to get dressed and ready for our concert. And so in between, they fed us that day. But the other time that they've fed us is General Conference Sunday because you're there for both sessions and you don't have time to go home in between and so they've just done box lunches for us on those days. But every other time we bring our own food, like Sunday mornings, you get this tiny little break between the run through and the broadcast. And I've just brought nuts and fruit. And then I just have enough time to eat that before we have to be back on, into the loft to sing. But yeah, the food, for the most part, and even on tour, I've noticed that they really are accommodating of all different types of diets. And so my first tour was in September of last year, and I was pleasantly surprised because I was praying that I would be able to do my bright line plan, and
Mhm.
not have to bring so much food with me or whatever. And it really did work out. The plane ride would probably have been the most challenge because I just feel like even when you can bring your own food, and that I think I'm going to do better with that is making sure I have enough. But they have it catered, and so like for instance, Chick-fil-A did one of them, and then the other one was Jimmy John's, and thankfully they had lettuce wrapped sandwiches with Jimmy John's, but it still didn't feel like I had enough protein or enough vegetables most of the time on the flight, and so I that's one lesson that I was like, for the flight I can just plan ahead, but for all the other times I feel like we've been accommodated with plenty of protein and vegetables, fruit.
Right.
So,
Have you specifically like told them this is what I eat, this is only that I can eat, or it's just kind of worked out that way?
I have not told him, and I've wondered about that too. If I should, if I need to talk to someone, I've been thinking there's got to be another bright line eater in the choir. I have yet to find one, but I need to like start talking about it a little bit more and opening up, because I think that would be helpful for them to know. There's always people that are gluten free, there's always people that are vegan or vegetarian, and a lot of times it's allergies. And so they make that known, but it's a little bit harder when it's just sort of a preference of how you want to eat
Mhm.
and to make that known. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of my challenge that I'll take on is, hey, in the future, I can talk about this more and be unafraid to share.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe you start sharing and the whole choir's on it, and then all the meals are right, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
That
for
would
sure.
be amazing. Definitely. So you talked about the plane ride being a little bit challenging, but as far as tour goes, where did you guys just go as a choir?
We just went to Peru last month. And that was the both tours, they mostly did the hotel did most of our meals. So they had breakfast ready for us, then lunch, then dinner, and we'd always just get back to the hotel for meals. And so that was nice to be able to have, a square meal 3 times a day. And the challenge was when we'd come back from like every night, there'd be a rehearsal or a sound check. And we'd get back sometimes at like 9 or 10 in the evening. And then they would have a fourth meal for us, a snack. And I was like, that was there was a couple of nights that I would just say, I'm going straight up to my room. I've already had my meals. And usually those snacks were not completely compliant. Sometimes it would be like cheeses and nuts and things like that. But it was another meal that I didn't need, right? And so um it was better if I just went straight to my room and got ready for bed. And it's not good to eat like before bed anyway, right? We all know that you need time for your food to digest. So in hindsight, I would have done it every night,
Right.
just to help my plan a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like staying out of the kitchen at home. When you're done eating, you just stay out of that kitchen for
Right.
sure. When we
I,
talked,
oh,
oh,
sorry.
go
I was
ahead.
going to say this tour in Peru was my birthday was the day before we left to come home. And it was the day of the concert. It was just like a really big day. And I got back to my room and the hotel had put a cake with balloons in our room.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
goodness.
oh, so I was texting everyone, come and get this, to everyone I could see, come to my room and have some. But of course I indulged myself, and in hindsight, again, if I was really being, you know, if I was in that peaceful place and I would have just said, it's okay, I don't need it. Right. And so,
Right.
but
Right.
um,
But
that's
we're not perfect. And now you know for the future, you're like, you know what can I do differently? What can I learn? Because that's how our journey
right.
we don't learn everything right at the first. And sometimes we have to go through a break to really strengthen us and to be able to overcome and stuff. So now you shared an experience that you had on this last one with your roommate. Do you remember?
Yes.
I
Yes.
I got chills when you shared this, so I wanted to make sure that we highlighted it today.
Yeah. So the roommate, we have one roommate and you can kind of choose your roommates before you go if you want. But this particular roommate I had this time on Peru, it was her first tour and she was very worried. She had told me I think it was the last day, she said, I'm so glad you were my roommate because I was worried that my roommate wouldn't understand how I eat. This friend, this had just recently been put on a diet by her doctor of no gluten, no sugar, and no dairy because of just her hormonal, she's in menopause right now and just the hormonal issues that she's dealing with. This doctor put her on that diet. And she was very worried that she'd have a roommate that would be like, what? And not understand. And so she did. She says, I'm so glad you are my roommate because you totally get it. we had so much in common when it came to that kind of health journey and trying to turn our lives in, having a better health consciousness. And so it was good that we both could like walk away from the dessert, walk away from things together. And it was easier, felt easier for sure. So,
For sure. Well, what seems like a coincidence is definitely not. Heavenly Father knew that both of you needed each other.
yes.
And going forward now, if you can request a roommate, you can always request to be with her because now you guys, then you don't have to worry. I just think that is so amazing. So amazing. What is probably one of the most meaningful experiences that you've had with the choir so far?
Wow. I think if I were to choose, it'd be really hard because there's so many. But the most recent one was when we were finished with our concert in Peru. We got
Mhm.
to go do a meet and greet. So they just kind of said this group will go this direction, this group will go this direction, and we would just go where all the concert goers were leaving. As they were leaving the concert, they could just kind of meet us. And this particular lady that I met was speaking Spanish. She didn't know English and she was just overcome with tears. And she just was speaking Spanish. And I wish I knew Spanish. This is when I was like, why wasn't I doing Duolingo to prepare for this trip? But she was talking to myself and one other choir member. And pretty soon her son came around and he started to translate for her. And he told us that she was saying, I came with all these questions. Sorry. And now I have answers. And she's like, I know I'm a child of God. And it was just like the way she was speaking it and the tears that were coming, just it was an experience I'll never forget. Like people were really moved and changed. And that's it kind of gives me that, okay, we are missionaries and this is the message we're bringing. And I was just super grateful for that opportunity.
That is amazing. So how long will you be in the choir? How long is can you be in there?
Till you're 60, everyone retires when they're 60. And so basically, and you have to be able to commit 5 years, at least 5 years. So they don't even let you audition once you hit 55. Um, and so I will have 7 years total. So I'll retire in 2030. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Which I'm
awesome.
hoping, I mean, maybe they would extend it between now
Right.
and maybe because I feel like I could go beyond 60, but yeah, it's just the way the policy is for the choir.
Yeah. Well, maybe if the whole choir's on bright line eating, they'll all be
Yeah.
just have that extra and they can, raise the age to 70 or something. Because you'll all be so healthy.
It's interesting because that's a really good point. We did a health challenge right before tour. There's a few people that will like say, let's do this challenge. And then it's just sort of like the way you eat, and you're exercising, you're eating, you're getting your water, you're getting your sleep, there's just several different points. And I joined that challenge and we had a Facebook group and we check in it every week. And anyway, one of the comments as we were finishing up this challenge right before we left on tour, one of the comments one lady said was, she goes, my voice has not worked this well in a long time. Like she could feel the hydration and the healthy eating, and it was no sugar. That was one of the points that we were trying to do, was no sugar. And so I was like, wow, there's so much we don't recognize that happens in other parts of our body that when we're trying to be bright and when we're eating the best we can.
That's awesome. So, what would be your greatest advice that you could give to someone who's maybe struggling on their bright lining eating journey with their program?
I would say stick it out, like don't give up, no matter what, keep going. Like I would say the tap into that support, which I really feel like is key for me with this. I did Weight Watchers for years, and that was getting to the meetings was really crucial. But like being able to check in daily with someone is even better. And that's what we get in Brightline Eating. When you get a mastermind group or you get we have a Marco Polo group. and or a coach, that accountability, I feel like is key to sticking it out. Just somebody that will be a buddy or whatever. You just have to keep going. And that's my biggest, I would say, never give it up.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great advice. And that's true. The connection that we have and the ability to check in with people, that really it brings accountability and it brings success. And that's why we have it. That's so awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we close? Anything that
Yeah, I can't think of anything. Can't think of anything. I think we've covered pretty much everything, but
yeah.
I'm really grateful. I guess I would say I'm super grateful for the Brightest Eaters in Utah organization that conference makes it gives me that momentum even
Mhm.
more to like keep moving forward and seeing everybody else and their journey, that we're all unique, we're all individual, but we all share a very common thing with food addiction and the challenge to have food peace. I love
Mhm.
that it's others that are going through it and get to meet them. And so I'm really grateful for that.
Absolutely. That looks like there's a couple questions that had come up in the chat. And if there's anyone that has questions for Krystal, please feel free to put them in the chat or you can raise your hand and unmute and ask yourself. Patty Stringfellow asked, is Let's Play music only in Utah?
No, so it started in Arizona actually, and so probably the most teachers are in Arizona, but there's a lot in Utah, and there's a lot in Idaho, Colorado. Um, it's all over the country, but as we get more into the eastern states, we need more teachers there, and so they're always recruiting teachers. Um, they have kind of moved online. So if you live in a place, if you have someone that would love this program, and they live in a place where there's not a teacher within 30 minutes, they will let you join the online. And the online is awesome too. Awesome. The online program
Yeah,
is.
it's really been awesome. Let's see. Patty also says that she knows someone. Hold on, let me scroll back up. Gretchen Myers, that's Patty's friend. Do you
Is
know a
she?
Gretchen Myers in the choir?
Oh, I have not met Gretchen, but I will look for her. I'll think,
I know
I'll think for her.
we have the do you know so and so because my kids and I like to play spot the person that we know in the choir, because there's two teachers that teach at my kids' schools that are in the choir that we talked about. And then also one of the flutists, the main flutist that is in our ward. And so it's like, oh, can we spot them? And now I can go, oh, there's my friend Krystal. There she is. Um, so let's see. Another question was asked by Joy Flake. She said, do you have to purchase your dresses or are they provided for you?
The clothing is all provided. Yes, so that's one blessing. We don't ever take them out. They stay put and we dress there, and they don't leave the tabernacle or the conference center. So we just have to bring all of our stuff to change and get ready. But we do provide our own shoes and socks and slip, those kinds of things. But the dresses themselves and the jewelry is all provided.
That's awesome. Now I noticed choir members like move seats and stuff at different performances. How are the seats chosen?
So they know your height, and so you're always placed by height first, but then by part as well. And then so they have the soprano one, and then soprano two, then alto one, and then alto two. And so you're always going to be in that kind of section, but you're moved around based on lots of people end up missing for sickness or travel or family vacations or whatever. And so you're always missing people every week. And
Mhm.
then we have a seating manager who just figures it out, like making sure that we're in the place where we need to be so that you can see in front of you, So
That's awesome. Luann asked, was your costume master upset about your weight loss and having to find you new dresses or fix your dresses?
that was a really good question. That's awesome. I actually was kind of urgently pushing to lose weight before I wanted to get more to my goal weight before I had to be measured for dresses. And so I was really urgently pushing back in December and or the December 2023. And so I haven't had, there was one refitting I had to go through. So when I got my first 5 dresses, they were measured, and then I lost some more weight, and then I had to go in for a refitting, and I only did that for like two of the dresses. So there's a couple that are a tiny bit loose, but not enough that I feel like I would need to be refitted. And I think it used to be, I've heard people tell me that they used to say, don't lose weight and don't gain weight. You know, like they would really strictly tell you. They haven't said that now. They don't really bring that up. They just recognize that there might have to be refittings, you know?
Huh?
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So how many different dresses do they have for you, like right now?
Good question. I'm like trying to count. We have a brand new one that we used for the first time at the um First Presidency's Christmas devotional. And then have to think white, purple, blue, raspberry. The new one is red. And then there's a new one coming that's going to be more of a teal in a way.
Oh,
Oh, and
that'll
then
be pretty.
and we do have a turquoise one and a black one. Okay, so there's eight. There's eight dresses. The turquoise is rarely used. We did do it on tour, and then the black is only for chorale, but we wore that to the Christmas concerts this year. I think it just fit the theme of the whole kind of message of the Christmas concert.
Okay, let's see. What is the Shauna asked, what is the youngest age one can join the choir?
I think it's 25. I think you have
25.
to be 25 years old. And you can be in for 20 years. You can't go beyond 20 years. So, somebody getting in at 25 could stay until 45, but that they would have to retire once they've hit 20 years.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Let's see. I think that's it. Do you guys do you get tickets to give to your family like for choir and other concerts and stuff?
Yes, we do. We're given usually an allotment of like 6 per concert. For Christmas concert, it was like 6 per night. But we are kind of counseled as best we can to share them with people who maybe don't, we like using them as a missionary tool.
Oh God.
And so we always advise our families to jump on and get in the lottery, get in the lottery so that you can be sure to get tickets, but it's not always a guarantee that you'll get them each time. And so
Uh-huh. That's awesome. Let's see. I had a question and it just left my mind. Well, does anyone else have a question? Oh, yes, now I remember. So with the Brightest Eaters Conference in June that we're doing, we're actually going to have an activity where we come on, I think it's Sunday the 22nd, June 22nd, to music and the spoken word. We're going to bring a group of people. And so someone wanted me to ask if you guys will be performing or will it be a recording?
on June 22nd, it should be performing. And
Okay.
a recording would only happen when we're on tour. I was trying to think if that's ever happened, besides tour. I feel like it hasn't, at least while I've been in. So
So when,
yeah,
so, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so when you're on tour, you guys aren't doing music in the spoken word. It's a pre-recorded one?
Yeah. I,
Okay.
I think in the Philippines, they did do that. I was in the choir, but I wasn't like in broadcasts yet. I was in that final phase, that fourth phase when they went to the Philippines. But I do remember someone saying they recorded while in the Philippines for the music and the spoken word. But since then, they haven't. They've just decided to do it as a rebroadcast while we're on tour.
Okay. That's awesome. And what are some of the places? I know you guys have a couple more tours coming up. Where will you guys be going?
So in August, we'll go to Argentina. And then next February, we'll go to Brazil. And it's Buenos Aires, Argentina, and then Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I think that is going to be the end of the World of Folk tour, because it's kind of like we're doing Mexico in 2023 was where it began. And then there'll probably be another tour that gets started after that. But for the World of Folk, I think Brazil will be the last stop.
That's awesome. Do you guys get to do any sightseeing when you're on, like in Peru? Did you get to go see any of the sites?
Yeah, though we didn't get to go to Machu Picchu,
Oh,
which is
shoot.
like that was, but they did tell us, you're not tourists, you are missionaries. So really keep that in your mind that's your purpose here. And so we did do a little sightseeing. There was time to go to Miraflores in Lima, Peru, which is kind of like this beautiful district right by the ocean. And we got to go downtown where the cathedrals and the catacombs are. We got to do some of that. And there was a group that were chosen, about 100 people, to go to an orphanage and do service there. So yeah, they're always looking for opportunities to serve while we're that's kind of the bigger thing is the service part of it, compared to
Hmm.
touring.
Yep. Is there a location that you would love to go, like that you're secretly praying that the choir will go to, that you can go sing it?
Yes, Australia.
Australia.
I don't know that would
That's
ever
what I
happen.
would have chosen too. Australia for sure.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be so fun. It looks like Connie Finlayson said, how many choir members do you have on standby for any performances for those maybe who are sick?
So the only time there's like a standby is for general conference, for tour, and for Christmas concerts. Um, you have to have your attendance above 80% to not be placed on standby. And I'm an alto one. We have the bigger group right now. We have more alto ones than the other sections. And so
Mhm.
we had 11 people on standby for tour into Peru. And some of those people were at 85% attendance and still didn't go. So
Wow.
it kind of depends on, they do factor in if it's your last year, then you're going to get more precedence for tour. And and so they'll let you have a little bit lower attendance to be considered to go. But they do have criteria on who gets placed on standby based on attendance, on attitude, and your if you're retiring or not.
That's interesting. So you could be in the choir and not everyone's guaranteed to go
Right.
on tour. Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. Well, awesome. Are there any other questions that anyone has before we end? This has been amazing, Krystal. You are just such a light in our community, and it's just so fun to hear a little bit more about your life and your journey and your experiences with the choir because we all love the choir and music and the spoken word and hearing about the tours, but to kind of get that background is just so fun to learn. And so thank you so much for sharing with us. It looks like one more question and then we'll end. It says Max Wilberg seems like an amazing prodigy. What's it like working with him?
Oh, it is amazing. I just when I've watched him on screen and stuff, and before all of this, I thought he seems kind of stern. He is one of the most loving, genuine people, but he's very productive. Like he does not like wasting time. And so we get to it and we don't, sometimes he gets a little firm with, put your phones away. Don't be, don't be
Mhm.
talking to your neighbor. We're here to do what we're here to do. And but he's funny also. He has a great sense of humor. And he has an ear, like an incredible ear. He can tell when one person is not singing it when it's out of tune, just a little bit, and he'll never point out the person in general. He'll just kind of say, in this section, I'm hearing someone sticking out or whatever, or somebody, he just has such a good ear. And I just think we're really blessed that for his talents. And then I mean, you guys probably all know the music he arranges. We do a
Yeah,
lot of music that he's arranged, and he's just got a gift. It's pretty incredible.
absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. I was going to ask you one other thing. Oh, shoot. All right. Well, I can't remember. So maybe I'll have to ask you later when I remember what it was. But just thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to everyone who joined us. I know sometimes at 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon isn't always the most convenient time, but we're grateful that you could be here to learn about Krystal. And so thank you so much for sharing you with us. We just love you.
Thank you, Diana, and thank you all for coming on. I really hope to get to know each of you individually at some point. I just love that you guys do this. This is awesome. So thanks for having me.
This is great. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. I hope that everyone has a beautiful Sabbath day. And for those of us who are attending the Relief Society General broadcast later, we hope that you enjoy that. Um, the choir's not singing at that, is there? Are they?
They're not.
They're okay. I think it's pre-recorded anyway, right? I think so. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, this will be uploaded to YouTube sometime within the next probably 24 hours for those of you that didn't. And we'll post it in the group if you want to hear it again. So thank you again, Krystal.
Thank you so much.